Good day. In this video, I'd like to give you a conceptual overview of how Occulus works. Here is the entire picture. It shows on the left side the inputs, various inputs from the CRM, as well as question updates done by the sales rep. And these are the outputs on the right side. So what I'd like to do is just take you through it quickly on a step-by-step process. So the first thing we do is we capture information from the CRM. Oculus also can work as a standalone system. The difference being is one's automated, one's manual. And we capture particular information about the opportunity name, contact information, the close date, where you are in the stages of the sales cycle, what we refer to as header information. From there, we go to updating the information that Occulus requires to analyze the opportunity. And the first thing we look for is the opportunity description. And what we're trying to determine here is it real? Is this a real opportunity? Because if it isn't, everything you do from this point on is a waste of time. Then what we want to look at is, can we compete? And that we look at that through the proposed solution. Again, the opportunity can be real, but if we don't have a viable option to pursue this deal, then we really can't compete. So these are kind of exit points, if you will. If the opportunity is not real, just exit or put it off to a later date. And if you don't have a viable solution, then we should drop it right now. Really, the next thing we want to know is, and in terms of the buying process or the decision process, is how does this prospect buy stuff that we're selling? It's very important that we can navigate the decision process, because that's where the politics of the sale can come into play. Once we've determined that, we want to look at the relationship, which is, who do we know in this account? And perhaps more important is, who don't we know, but we should know? So we want to look at those types of things as well. And then we want to understand who the competition is and how do we beat them. If we can't beat the competition in a deal, then everything else is for naught. And then finally, what we're looking for is the timing. And we want to answer the question here, is the timing realistic? We have a close date. Is it realistic? And we've determined that by confirming it with the decision makers and individuals in the decision process. Once Occulus has all that information, it then submits that and it analyzes it. And the first thing we get out is a statement of how well the opportunity has been qualified in terms of winning the deal. And we call that the degree of qualification. In addition to that, there's also the confidence factor. And what that tells us is that if the prospect made a decision today, the confidence factor represents the confidence that we could have in winning the deal. From there, we get the probabilities, when the probabilities and uncertainty. And we have it on two axes. We have the probability of winning the deal, in this case is 64%, and the probability that the deal will close by the stated close date. In this case, it's 80%. And you'll notice there's a high and low, and that's a range of probabilities. And the reason we have that range of probabilities is because we're missing information. And it introduces uncertainty into the final probability or outcome. So what we're really saying here on the winning axis is the chances of me winning this deal can range from a low of 53% to a high of 75%. And that's a fairly broad range. And the reason that range exists is because there's information about this deal that directly impacts my chances of winning it that I don't have. And we say the same thing on the timing axis. Now, you'll notice right underneath we have the winning and timing chart. And what that is, that's just that table graphed. And it's a graphical representation representation of the table. The vertical axis on that graph is the probability of winning, and the horizontal axis on the chart is the timing probability, or the probability that the deal will close by the stated close date. Separate videos exist for this particular piece of Occulus and goes into more detail. You can watch that and get a greater understanding. The next thing we have is the SWOT analysis. And what the SWOT analysis does is it looks at each of the categories of the sale, which is over in this section. If you look at all the categories over here, the SWOT analysis examines each of those categories and measures our strengths and weaknesses in the category. And it's available in two formats. The first format is the SWOT analysis, which I'm showing right here. And that is an individual statement about each category, how we're doing, some general recommendations, where we're strong, where we're weak, what we need to do, is if the uncertainty is within acceptable limits. And then in addition to that, we have the SWOT chart. And what the SWOT chart does is it takes all the individual SWOT analysis and graphs it on a single chart. And you can see in the SWOT analysis, you can see the red and the green, and the junction between those two is what we refer to as the score we achieved in that category, and the green represents the potential that we could get, and the red represents the risk, where if as we get additional information, if it goes against us, we could be in that red area. And you'll notice that some of those bars are longer than others, and the length of the bar represents the amount of information that I'm missing that is specific to this category. Similar to the probabilities uncertainty, there's also a video available which goes into much more detail about the SWOT chart, and I would encourage you to read that. The next thing we look at is the forecast rating. What Occulus does is it takes all the analyses, the numbers that you see above, the degree of qualification, the confidence factor, the probabilities, uncertainties, the SWOT analysis, etc., and rolls all that information into and through a series of algorithms, and will come up with a forecast rating. And this is done automatically. It's consistent across everything. And in this case, it's a B. So we're saying that if we were going to forecast this opportunity, we should forecast it as a B quality opportunity. Now, B is upside, A is commit, and F is leave it out of your forecast. And there's, again, a video available for that which goes into greater detail. From there, we talked about missing information. What Occulus does is it keeps track of all the information that it needs, and anything that's missing, it will print out a report for you and simply say, you need to get this additional information. And that report is printed by category. So if you look at the SWOT chart and you notice this one category here has a bigger gap, you'll see that if you go to the missing information, it will give you that information. The next item you get is the action items. And what this is a series of steps that you can take to help move this opportunity forward through the sales process. The action items are divided into two groups. There's a group that where you're strong, there is action which will reinforce or build on that strength. And where you've got a weakness, Occulus will recommend certain actions to mitigate that weakness. We then get the velocity chart, and the velocity chart, which is a very good chart and an excellent chart, literally tracks your progress through as you push the deal through the sales cycle. Now, there is also a video on that which goes into greater detail, and I encourage you to watch that video. You'll notice that there's three lines in the velocity chart. There's this top one, the middle one, and the bottom one. Those three lines represent these three values. The top line is the high, the middle line, which is blue there, is the score, and the lower one is the red. And what happens is, as you follow Oculus's guidance in terms of getting missing information, what you'll see is these lines start to converge, which means that the high and the low are starting to converge on the score, which means you're increasing the degree of qualification. And as you implement the action items, you'll notice that the score will move forward, will move up. Clearly, what we want to do is move this score value up to 100%, which is the same here. And then the final thing we have is the sales strategy. And this is where you just put into Oculus what your next steps are on your sales strategy. And this is a very effective means to communicate with your sales manager. Your sales manager is going to want to know a couple of things. How well the opportunity is qualified, which he or she can get from the degree of qualification. The close date, and is it going to close by the stated close date, which he or she can get from the timing probabilities. What you're forecasting it as, which is available from Oculus, and really what your next steps are. Just enter your next steps, and your sales manager can see all that information, and it's effectively a automated deal review for the sales manager. And that's it. Thank you for your time, and have a great day. And I encourage you to look at those other videos. You'll find them to be very, very helpful. Thank you. Bye for now.